Born on January 15, 1929, in Atlanta, Georgia, Martin Luther King Jr. was a young boy with dreams of change. Tucked away in the heart of the segregated South, Martin was born into a world where the color of his skin dictated the opportunities he was given. Yet, from an early age, he showed signs of someone who would not let societal norms confine him. Martin was a bright and curious child. His intellect was apparent in his academic performance, as he excelled in his studies despite the challenges presented by segregation. His thirst for knowledge led him to Morehouse College at the tender age of 15, where he pursued a degree in sociology. From there, his passion for understanding the human condition and his drive to make a difference led him to Crozer Theological Seminary, and later Boston University, where he earned his doctorate in systematic theology. Throughout his formative years, Martin's father, Reverend Martin Luther King Sr., played an instrumental role in shaping his beliefs. As a prominent minister and a civil rights leader himself, King Sr. instilled in his son the principles of equality and justice. He taught Martin that change was possible, but it had to be fought for. These teachings would later become the foundation of Martin's own philosophy and his approach to the civil rights movement. But it wasn't just his father who influenced him. Martin found inspiration in the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi, whose philosophy of nonviolence resonated deeply with him. He saw in it a powerful tool for change, one that could break the chains of segregation without resorting to the hatred it was born from. In the midst of his academic pursuits, Martin found love. He met Coretta Scott while studying in Boston, and they married in 1953. Together, they would become a formidable force in the fight for civil rights. After earning his doctorate in theology, Martin became a pastor, marrying his wife, Coretta, and settling in Montgomery, Alabama. Here, in the heart of the Jim Crow South, Martin's journey as a civil rights leader was about to begin. It was in Montgomery that Dr. King's journey as a civil rights leader began with the Montgomery Bus Boycott. This pivotal event was sparked by the arrest of Rosa Parks, a seamstress and secretary of the local National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, who refused to give up her bus seat to a white passenger. The African American community of Montgomery was outraged, and under the leadership of a young and relatively unknown Baptist minister named Martin Luther King Jr., they decided to take a stand. The Montgomery Bus Boycott was a turning point in the civil rights movement, marking the first large-scale demonstration against segregation in the United States. For 381 days, African Americans refused to ride city buses, choosing instead to walk or carpool. This was no small feat, considering that African Americans made up 70% of the city's bus ridership. The boycott crippled the city's public transportation system and hit the city's economy hard. During the boycott, Dr. King emerged as a compelling and inspirational leader. His sermons and speeches, delivered at mass meetings, resonated with the African American community. King spoke of nonviolent resistance, drawing on the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi. He urged his followers to meet hate with love, to fight not just for their own rights, but for the soul of America. His eloquent words and powerful delivery stirred the hearts of many, not just in Montgomery but across the nation. However, this path was not without peril. King was arrested, his home was bombed, and he received numerous threats. Yet he remained undeterred. His resilience in the face of adversity further galvanized the African American community and drew national attention to the civil rights movement. The Montgomery Bus Boycott ended on December 20th, 1956, when the Supreme Court ruled that segregation on public buses was unconstitutional. This was a significant victory, but for Dr. King, it was just the beginning. His leadership during the boycott had thrust him into the national spotlight, setting the stage for his role in the broader fight for civil rights. But his non-violent protests also led to numerous arrests. These arrests, however, did not deter him. They only strengthened his resolve to fight for justice and equality. The pivotal moment in Martin's life came in August 1963 when he delivered his iconic "I Have a Dream" speech during the March on Washington. It was a sweltering summer day when more than 200,000 people, black and white, young and old, gathered in the nation's capital. Their purpose: to demand equal rights for all, regardless of race or color. This was the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, one of the largest political rallies for human rights in the nation's history. At the heart of the march was Martin Luther King Jr., a beacon of hope and the embodiment of the civil rights movement. Standing at the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, he delivered a speech that would echo through the annals of history. "I have a dream," he declared, his voice resonating with the power of his conviction. Each word was a plea for freedom, a call for justice, and a vision of a future where his 4 little children would live in a nation where they would not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. His words were not just a dream, but a blueprint for a more inclusive, equitable society. His speech inspired millions, rallying them to the cause and igniting a fire for justice that continues to burn to this day. The "I Have a Dream" speech was a defining moment in the civil rights movement, a turning point that marked a shift in national consciousness. It thrust the issues of racial inequality and injustice into the spotlight, pushing them to the center of the national discourse. The speech's impact was far-reaching and profound, resonating not just in the hearts and minds of those who were present that day, but also around the world. It served as an urgent call to action, a demand for an end to racism, and a plea for the realization of the true meaning of the nation's creed, that all men are created equal. The March on Washington and King's "I Have a Dream" speech remain as potent symbols of the struggle for civil rights. They remind us of the power of peaceful protest and the importance of standing up for justice and equality. His dream was for a world where people would not be judged by the color of their skin, but by their character. In 1964, the Civil Rights Act was signed into law, marking a major victory in the fight against racial discrimination. This landmark legislation prohibited segregation in public places, banned employment discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, and brought an end to unequal application of voter registration requirements. This was a pivotal moment in the civil rights movement and a testament to the countless demonstrations, marches, and speeches led by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his fellow activists. That same year, King's tireless efforts for peace and equality were recognized internationally when he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. At just 35 years old, he became the youngest man to ever receive this honor. King's acceptance of the Nobel Peace Prize was not just an acknowledgement of his individual efforts, but a recognition of the entire civil rights movement. And in 1964, Martin Luther King Jr. was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his unwavering commitment to non-violence. But the struggle was far from over. Martin continued to push for equality and justice. His dream was not confined to the South. He saw the need for change in all corners of the nation. As he moved his activism north, he focused on the city of Chicago, a city plagued by segregation, discrimination, and a lack of affordable housing. Martin saw the fight for civil rights as inextricably linked to the fight against poverty. He recognized that freedom was meaningless without the economic means to live a decent life. This understanding led him to launch the Poor People's Campaign in 1968. The campaign was a bold, multiracial effort, aiming to address the economic and human rights of poor Americans. Martin's vision was not just to change laws, but to change society itself. He believed in a world where a person's worth was not determined by their race or their wealth, but by their character and their humanity. He dreamed of a society where love and justice prevailed over hate and oppression. His final years were marked by an unyielding commitment to this vision. He fought tirelessly, despite the mounting pressures and threats against his life. His resilience in the face of adversity continues to inspire us today. He took his activism to Chicago and launched the Poor People's Campaign. On April 4, 1968, the world was shaken by tragedy when Dr. King was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee. A bullet silenced the voice that had been a beacon of hope and change, but it could not extinguish the dream. It was a dark day, not just for the United States, but for the entire world. A beacon of hope, a voice for the voiceless, a champion of nonviolence and equality, had been taken away prematurely. Yet, the story didn't end there. The legacy of Dr. King is as alive today as it was over half a century ago. His dream, his vision of a world where individuals are judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character, continues to inspire millions around the globe. His words echo through classrooms, his principles guide social movements, his life stands as a testament to the power of peaceful resistance. King's teachings remain relevant, shaping discussions about race and equality, inspiring new generations to stand up against injustice, to speak out, and to dream. The legacy of Dr. King is a legacy of action, of standing up for what is right, of dreaming of a better future and then working tirelessly to make that dream a reality. Today, Martin Luther King Jr. remains a symbol of hope and change, reminding us that one person's dream can change the world. His life, his work, his dream, they continue to light the path towards a more equitable and just world.